Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
And good evening. If those crazy Europeans show up.
Morning.
How you doing, Deep?
Good. Thank you.
You good? I'm good. You feeling better?
Much better.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear.
Yeah, it was a new experience for me.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good morning. Hello.
Ronald, great to see you again.
Same, Natan. How you doing? Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Hello to all the other new faces. Good to meet you all.
So everyone, Natan is our excuse me, speaker for today about Homes GPT and related technology. So Natan, we'll get to that after we do a little housekeeping here. We'll wait a couple more minutes here for others to join.
No problem. I mean, I am new a little bit in general to the CNCF working groups. I've been so me I'm just a little bit curious on the dynamic. Is it like usually a relatively small group? Do more people, is there a recording that more people watch afterwards, or just a friendly discussion?
Well, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Um, Generally speaking, we're probably about double, triple the size here. Sometimes it's been a lot more. Sometimes it's been a little less. It just kind of depends what's going on, especially when we get close to like KubeCon and things like that. That kind of influences what people are focused on. As far as the format, we try to do a quick overview of like all the kind of standing projects, if there is any progress on those. Then and also introductions for for anyone new, and um, then we try to go into like events. What is just because there's always events coming and going. What's going on there? If anybody needs any help, and then from there we'll switch to a speaker on some particular subject. And then from there, just any follow up at the end is usually how it goes. The individual projects tend to have their own meetings. So that's why we don't really get too much into the uh, tactical weeds here for any one particular thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Does seem kind of light today. Where is everybody? Uh, it's like 2 weeks away. Getting some messages. Oh, all right.
While we're waiting, maybe I can introduce myself because I was here last week, but I didn't say hi to everyone. Um, my name is Emily Casey, and I'm a staff engineer at Docker. Uh, Thinking about the developer experience for developers who are working on applications that integrate with generative models. Um, and I'm just happy to be here and learn about what you guys are doing. Not totally new to working with the CNCF because I used to be on the TOC of the Cloud Native Build Packs project, but switching focus and just wanted to say hi.
Hello, Emily. Glad you're here. Well, yeah, we might as well go around. We don't have a ton of people. I guess since I'm talking, I'll talk. So yeah, I'm Ron. I'm one of the volunteers here. Um, I work for a company called RXM. We do consulting and training. I'm also the chair of the Internet Society in the ACM here in the Bay. So we try to have events and invite everyone from the CN world to those events and vice versa. For my involvement with them, we've had like a lot of cloud native related training, um, Kubernetes, running AI, ML systems on Kubernetes, things of that nature. So if you're ever in the Bay, look us up. Got lots of stuff always going on. Deep, you're up.
Hey, so good morning and good evening. I'm Deep, working for Cisco, mostly from networking and security field, and we are about to finish AI security white paper.
Drum roll.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And just because Deep is modest, he has spoken at some of our events and participates in other things. Great. If you ever need someone to speak about security, he's the man. So, Raghu.
Hey, Ronald. Hey, thanks. This is Raghu Shankar, and I had like a recurring conflict to this session. Thankfully, the other meeting got canceled, but I think I participated in this series like till 2 months back for a few weeks, and then
Yep.
some recurring conflict, and I could not come in. But I'm very so my introduction is I'm an entrepreneur right now, looking and researching at new things. Cloud native being one of the two I'm looking at right now. I've been researching cloud native for the last 2-3 years, mostly on my own. And then the last 6 months to a year, I've been a little bit more listening into some of the CNCF tracks, like this track, as much as I can. I'm also hearing into some of the serverless and workflows and infrastructure lifecycle groups. So I'm like kind of monitoring it to learn more and see where I can contribute. My background before this is in Dell Technologies and Intel, where I was a product manager for servers and cloud servers. I incubated AI at Dell many years back. I was in a silicon engineering semiconductor role at Intel. So that's my background. And right now, what I'm doing right now is I am set up a home cluster right now, and I'm started profiling like a very simple workload now. And I want to take the next use case. Hopefully, it'll be an AI use case, and hence I'm kind of monitoring these tracks and see what kind of ideas I can glean, and also if there's anything I can contribute back, I would like to contribute back. So that's my background. And I must say, Nathan, I did see your video, right-sizing Kubernetes workloads with open source tooling. I have gone through half of the video last week. Since a part of my work, I'm learning. I saw your video, and I'm glad to see you here in person. So yeah, so hopefully that's my background and my kind of what my interest is for cloud native.
Awesome. Well, welcome back.
Great to see you, Tim.
Yes, I'll always be there. So if I don't show up, it's not because I'm not interested. I'm very interested, but I just kind of this recurring conflict I have with the other kind of research I'm doing in chiplets, which is semiconductors. So that's why I'm a little bit kind of tossed between where to kind of participate. But I want to be more active here as much as I can.
Awesome. Atan, you want to go?
Yeah, so okay. I mean, I've actually been involved in the open source world now for over a decade. I got started with GNOME Linux back in the day, and then for many years was not at all involved in open source professionally. And then in recent years, one of the founders at Robusta Dev. So we do essentially AI agents for platform engineering teams, infra SRE teams. And we're open core. So the core of what we do is open source, and that's what I'll be speaking about today, OpenStreetPT. And I really love that it's a small audience. So I hope it'll be more of a discussion also, and that's me just talking to the camera, which I always hate. But it's a pleasure to be here, and Ronald invited me on, so thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Todd, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm Saad, and I work for Red Hat as a principal engineer for OpenShift AI training and experimentation. Sorry, I was just getting my daughter from school and back to my office now. Yeah, so I work with model training and model experimentation. So yeah, I'm looking forward to contribute to this working group and see what if I can bring any value or contribute here. Thanks very much.
Oh, I'm sure you can. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Anka, are you with us?
Hey, good morning. I'm distinguished engineer at IBM. I have been working in the past 10 years on compliance automation, and particular, compliance as code. Let me see if I get some visual. Recently I'm looking for cross-pollinating the work that we are doing with AI. This is more of an applied AI to what we are doing as AI for compliance, but in the engagement here with the AI working group is compliance for AI. Can we use the technology that we have for compliance digitization and the work that we've done with NIST, OSCAL, the compliance as code language, to provide best practices as digital artifacts for the AI industry.
Right.
And I think, Ronald, it was you or who asked to formalize that. So we created a working group like the what is this? The issue, right? To formalize, right?
Yeah, start tracking things.
The effort, right.
Yep.
And we have started already a document. We have, I introduced last time a few more people, Talia and Rob and Vikas, they are out, who will help with that work. So anybody who is interested will get access to the paper. Once we put a little bit more meat on the bones, we will share the document here for review.
Thank you, Anka. Nina, I'm sad that you changed your name. It was NS to start. So I thought we were honored by a Kubernetes resource. Namespaces were visiting us, but we're still glad you're here too.
I'm on everybody's Kubernetes cluster. Yes, it's perfect. Yeah, I'm Naina. I am product manager at Red Hat, mainly looking after serverless Knative. And as you know, Knative used for model serving. So that has been where my focus has been. So we offer product based on Knative as a serverless, and we also offer Knative as a part of OpenShift AI that uses KSERV model serving. I recently got to know about this group, so I have no idea what this is about. It's just, I went to the CNCF calendar, it says AI working group. So I'm here, so I'll figure out as we go along as to what I can contribute.
Oh, great. Won't be too hard, I hope. Well, we're glad you're here. All right. I'll share the doc. So part of the reason why we're light today, there's two competing meetings. One of them, probably the more disruptive, is the TOC meeting. That's where Adele and Ricardo and others are. All right, where's the share button? Share. Okay. Actually, there we go. Okay, so I think Deep, I saw you put it there in the chat. Where's the chat button? Chat. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that, Deep. So Deep already put the link to this document. So for those who are new, maybe just real quick, what is this document? So we have a running notes from all of our agendas each month, so you can kind of see what's been going on as we go. And so here at the top, we're here on the 14th. So basically, yeah, just put your name in, and then we've already gone through our hellos. Standing items. So we have a dashboard, which is this, which we'll go over in just a moment. And then for the most part, we try to highlight the kind of major current things. It's not that there's not a lot of things that could be going on. It's just we have a couple, we don't, we only have so much time, and people who can put in a lot of work onto things to move the milestones, right? So right now that happens to be the scheduling paper and the security paper. So we try to, focus on those a little bit more so we can make some progress. Next will be Anka's effort and other projects like our which we'll see here on the dashboard. I'm losing my eyesight here. And then again, if we can have talks, we try to invite speakers, and Atan is with us today to talk about Homes GPT and related tech. So we're very honored to have him, which should be very, very good. And if we have any time left at the end, of course, you can always ask, especially for anyone who's new, if you see anything here that is interesting to you, and you want to know who maybe to meet up with, please do. You can always ask the Slack channel as well. But since we're here, it doesn't hurt to talk in person too. Okay, so should put myself in here. That would be remiss. Okay, so
Roland, can you put the link to the doc? It's not in meeting invite either.
it's in the chat.
I don't see it in the chat.
Oh, it's probably history. Probably doesn't have continuous history. All right, there it is.
Oh,
again.
thank you.
Okay. Let's go through the standing items real quick. All right. So again, just because a couple are new, maybe just a quick review of what we have accomplished. So running a group like this, we have guidelines. You know, part of the reason the CNCF even exists is to provide guidelines to projects, but that also includes the administrative guidelines for the groups helping the project. So like the TOC, in this case, a working group. Maybe one day this working group will be effectively promoted to being a TOC, but that has its own complexities at some level. As anyone who's ever worked at a large company, you know, if you're kind of small and hidden, you get a little more leeway to do things than if you're move up the food chain, right? And then you're kind of trapped by additional things. So there's pros and cons to that. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So some of the projects or things of note. One is we have just a general cloud native AI white paper. And the idea of that paper was to kind of boil the ocean of what's going on with AI and cloud native systems at that point in time. So that's been a year. So we're probably going to start working on versioning that. Not everything is a white paper. A lot of times we throw the word around and say it's a white paper, but it could just be a blog. It could just be, you know, something else, a talk. But generally speaking, that's probably the major artifact. It's been referenced a bunch of times at a bunch of conferences. It was contributed to by lots of people. Of note, we had Stephen Chen's daughter work on it. I believe she was 15 at the time. She works hard. She's here at lots of conferences, doing lots of like interviews of people and sharing of information. Love to see that. And but we had a whole range of people from all quarters, including people beyond the CNCF, contributed to that. Additionally, we had the landscape, which is a slow burning project. So the landscape, if you're familiar, of course, with CNCF landscape, we integrated a subcategory for AI, and you know, it's already overwhelming as it is, but you can see up here we have cloud native AI, right? And so if you happen to know of projects that kind of fit in these boxes, or want to update the data here, not everything is perfectly spelled out, right? There may be lacking data. So, you know, it takes effort to maintain these things. So if you want to contribute to this, please do. So that's the landscape. Another one that I don't see here that's making a comeback. Yes, there it is. It's over here in the backlog. Another project that's been around since the very beginning is the radar. So basically a radar is more of a purpose-built kind of landscape, and it's basically describes, you know, a subset of technologies and kind of its maturity is basically what it is, right? And so in this case, you know, what are the dimensions of maturity that we're interested in? what projects fit in those, and basically it helps act as a guide. So there had been a radar project for the CNCF in general. That project actually stopped about 3 years ago. We said we were interested in doing a radar for AI because there's just too many projects and they're all changing very quickly. And it's hard to know what's mature, what's not mature. And so we've picked it up, but haven't gotten terribly far. We were asked to kind of work with the CNCF because they were going to bring back the radar. So they did bring back the CN radar. And now the next step would be, okay, now that they've kind of got a process in place. And for anyone who's never done anything with the CNCF like that, part of the workflow is these working groups produce something, but then you kind of send it to the TOC, which is above us, right? And then they're the ones who like review it, make sure it represents the CNCF, right, in the community and things like that. So working groups just don't do what they want, right? There is some guides, guardrails, I should say, around us, and so that's where that project is. We're always looking for blogs. There's other efforts that come along, so you can check some of these things out. Again, right now, the main ones here are these two white papers. You may not be able to edit this board. There's been some limitations on accessing this. We're trying to open it up to make it easier to put comments and things on that, but there always seems to be some limitation to permissions on the board. So if you have any trouble, you want to update something and you can't, just let us know. Half the time I still have to ask someone else to help me. So don't feel bad. It's nothing personal. Okay. Now back to our regular schedule.
Hey, can I ask one question, Ronald?
Yes, sir.
I was in the other working groups. I'm hearing that like some kind of a reboot of some of the tags and TOC and working groups, etc. I mean,
Yep.
and some new model I was shown in kind of that. I think the infrastructure, like I don't know which some other working group I was listening in. So is the AI working group going to morph after the KubeCon in London? I heard that is kind of the timeline for making some transitions.
Good question. So not sure. Last I heard, there was consideration of, again, maybe we become, a tag or part of the TOC, or, it's a work in progress. So Ricardo, unfortunately, the ones who are more in tuned up there are not here, not because they're in the meeting right now, probably talking about this. So I'm sure Ricardo and company will have more to report on that issue soon. So again, just for anyone else who doesn't know, they're doing a review of the structure of the CNCF to some degree, and that may affect how these groups are kind of related and how they work, right? Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, actually, I have that deck, and actually now I see it again with a new set of eyes. There is something very top. There's something called initiatives, and there's something called artificial intelligence initiatives. So it's like there's also sub projects. There's also technical advisory groups, and all of them roll up under the TOC, Technical Oversight Committee. And so yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the information I got from the other working group.
Yeah.
Share the link where you see that.
Let me see, because someone dropped a link in a prior meeting.
It's above my pay grade, so we'll see what they tell me.
I will try to find the link and see if I can drop it in. But yeah, so I mean, but that's where I think, yeah, I guess we'll find out as things change.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So the white papers. Deep, since you are here, can you please give us the rundown on the security white paper?
Yeah. So this security white paper has more or less all content in. What I'm waiting for is bringing missing diagrams and some newer comments received in the last 1 week, incorporate those. And I think I have some questions about the flow of the document and so on. So I'm working on it. And if you really want to contribute at this stage, please go ahead and read section model security and AI agents, particularly because those were written but not reviewed. Other sections are reviewed. The middle one. Yeah. So I think this document need organization, diagrams, and a little bit of what we call converting text in a make it readable format and so on. So maybe in 3 to 4 days, you will see in better shape, but you can go ahead and read it and provide your comment, particularly related to model security and AI agents.
Yep. As someone who's done editing when it's near done, if you're gonna contribute, please leave it in the comments. Don't be since we're so close to like a kind of a alpha beta draft here. Let Deep kind of single guide it. Doesn't mean we can't do any bigger restructuring after. It just means it's hard to do when people jump in at the last minute and shake things up. So try to keep it in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it will be great that before we release the first review, actually, I want to release this to as tag, basically tag security. They need to read it. But so if comments are received before that, probably we will fix it.
Right.
But other than the flow, so lots of contents are there. It's just that the flow and particularly diagrams are missing. And of course, we had received some comments later, which are not there.
Right. Maybe a comment on the diagrams that are missing. If anyone here is good at diagrams, if you're interested in leaving your mark, that's an easy one to because once you put a diagram in, they get picked up in other papers and whatnot. So if you're trying to have work that's seen, that's an easy one to contribute to. All right. Any questions for Deep?
By the way, we have this particular white paper meeting next Friday. That's where we are going to review in that particular group, contributor group, and finalize it formally, whatever we find by that day.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this one. Any questions for Deep or comments? All right. Deep, I'll be pinging you to help out here with anything you need here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyone? I think I heard something.
Sorry, a quick question. I will take a look at the paper, but is it just model security from a cybersecurity point of view, or is it like guardrails and the AI model security?
AI model security.
Cool. Thank you.
It has the
I'll take a
guardrails.
look.
There is a section actually guardrails, so yeah, read it, please.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Cameron is. Thank you, Deep. I do not see Cameron. All right. Our friend Cameron, who's been out the last couple of meetings, actually, if I remember correctly, Cameron is creating a school for programmers in Colombia. He had been making one in Spain, and now he's in Colombia. That guy gets around.
I think he was in Panama, might be gone to Colombia. I don't know.
So been a little busy, but he's been shepherding the scheduling paper. So let's see if I can. This link still works. So scheduling paper has actually been a work in progress for a very long time, and partly because there's just so many tools. Do you want a field study or do you want an actual guide? Like where do you kind of fit into this? And with so many technologies, it's not really practical to have a guide. Counterpoint though is in the world of scheduling, there's kind of standard algorithms, right? Like, gang scheduling, this and that, right? Like, so you can cover some things to a degree from a technology and algorithm point of view, but then to show particular examples, it becomes hard. And there's just a lot of them, right? You got Slurm, you got all the variants of the Kubernetes scheduler. You've got, Kubernetes isn't the only cloud native tool. So, and then you have the workloads, of course, and their special requirements. So generally speaking, it's largely there. But there is so much little details. That's kind of where the cleanup has been. So we're probably pretty close. I think in both cases, a good outcome would be at least the beta draft of these for KubeCon, which is in 2 weeks. In a perfect world, these would have been done, and you know, out. And for those who have never made a white paper with the CNCF, again, the process is a working group, a tag will produce it. You know, you can still make it look as nice as you want here in Google Doc. They have an actual professional editing team, right? So they'll go through, make it look really nice, right? And make it something worth sharing. And so, and also just verify that there's nothing bad in it. And so these papers, their next step will go to that group, the marketing group, and they will kind of once over everything and then actually release it. So there will also, for these larger things, the CNCF will actually do a, you know, marketing push for it as well. As an example, that CNA AI white paper was in the keynote at KubeCon when it was done, right? So that kind of thing. So if you're into scheduling, this is the one to take a look at. It's also very, very close as well. And again, it doesn't mean it's 100%. It's never 100%, right? Have a follow-on blog if something was missed. Do a version increment, right? We can always do more. Sorry. All right, next. Best practices white paper. Yes. All right. Anka, did you want to add anything here other than what you had before?
I realized that earlier it was simply introduction, so I delivered my speech for the status of the paper as well in an efficient manner. So yeah, we have this. We started working. If anyone is interested to join, please contact me or Vikas.
Great. I just to add my 2 cents. I'm a consultant, and the risk management aspects of AI are really, you know, from our customers, becoming more and more important. So I'm just saying, at least from my perspective, this area is becoming, you know, something much more talked about as this stuff matures. So if you're looking for a long-term project for anyone who's new, this one could actually be a very good one to get involved with. Is all I would like to.
Yeah, the same thing for us. So basically, just for the people that, you know, see this for the first time, we build on the existing white paper that has just been discussed on the technology that is recommended to support the security and reduce the risk for AI. We looked through that. We are building on that technology and develop best practices. Of course, high level, we have them from AI RMF and from EU AI, but we take it now to the next level of detail. How do they actually apply to the technology that is presented in the security paper?
Mm-hmm. And if anyone feels they have pretender syndrome, don't worry about that. We're all learning. So again, if you think you're interested in it, everyone here is smart and capable. Please just jump in. We have the experts, right? We have Anka, we have Vikas, right? We have the people, right? So just, you know, they need help.
Especially if you have an AI background, because we are coming from the compliance aspect. We know how to deal with high level requirements and help divide and conquer, right, at the technology level. But yes, the AI expertise is very much needed. So if you come from AI background, don't worry, we can complement on what needs to be done to develop these best practices.
Awesome.
Hi, Vikas.
Yeah, hi. And do let me know if anyone wants to contribute. I will share the Google Doc link. I haven't put it here explicitly because we are just starting, so we want to be in a shape so that we can put the link here. But whoever wants to contribute, please let us know and we'll share the link to you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. All right. Thank you, Anka. Thank you, Vikas. Ricardo, welcome back. You made it out. Real quick, there was a question earlier about the potential modifications to the tags, the TOC, working groups, things like that. Is there anything worth mentioning for here?
Yeah, it'll be officially announced after KubeCon. I think there's a GitHub issue, a public TOC GitHub issue. Maybe I can share that whenever I find it. I'll paste it on the doc basically.
Okay, cool.
So I think the main idea is they're going to reduce the number of attacks from 8 to 5, and they're going to be split into different areas. I think there's infrastructure, there's security, I believe. There's one about compute. So there, so different ones, but there will also be some initiatives and working groups. So I think as it stands, this working group will remain as it is. So I don't think there will be major changes for this working group. And the only thing that may change is how the working group interfaces with the CNCF. So it might just be something where they just talk directly to the TOC, but I also happen to be in the TOC, so I'm happy to liaise and help out.
Very good. Thank you, Ricardo.
Yep.
And by the way, anyone who's new, Ricardo is one of our leaders here. So just say hello to Ricardo. All right, Natan, our guest speaker and newest member, Natan, is here to discuss Holmes GPT and related concepps. Natan, it is your show now. So if you'd like to take it over and share or do whatever you like to do.
So thank you, and it's a pleasure. And like I said earlier, I always prefer a good discussion to me just talking to the camera. So if people have questions or comments as we go, it just like either hit the symbol to raise your hand or speak up. And I'm always happy to interact as we do that. I'll also, of course, take questions at the end. But I prefer to just make this more of a discussion. So I want to start with maybe a little bit of an overview and kind of a little bit of what's happening in the ecosystem that's really interesting at the moment, because there's a ton going on and like really fast, and the whole space is changing very fast. So I want to just start with like really some stuff that's new in the past 2-3 months. So I guess the three big ones is one, MCP. MCP is really taking the world of AI by storm. And for anyone who doesn't know, MCP is a protocol for how you can connect large language models to different data sources. So, for example, if you want to go off and query data from Grafana, then Grafana can expose an MCP API, and then like any large language model that speaks the MCP protocol can now go off and pull data live from Grafana. So it becomes a way to extend AI agents with information from real world systems. So think, for example, you have AI and you want to use that to answer a question about your Kubernetes infrastructure, then you can pull in data from Google Cloud. You can pull in data from all these different sources. So MCP is the protocol that makes it easy to do that in a standard manner. Then the second thing that's like really exciting that everyone is talking about, a lot more now than like last year, but this has really been ongoing, something that a lot of people have been looking at for a long time, is agents. That tends to have a different meaning for different people. The definition that we use for agents internally is you have to meet 3 criteria. So an agent is an AI that can, one, look at data from the external world. So it has to be able to not just answer based on whatever it was trained on, but be able to look at data, going back to MCP, often pulling in data from MCP. 2, it has to be able to decide what data it looks at. So you're not just feeding in data that you pull from the external world and saying, take this and summarize it. It has to be able to decide on its own, oh, I'm missing data, and then goes off and pulls in more data. And then 3, it has to be able to decide, like keep thinking for as long as it wants, for a reasonable amount of time until it says, okay, I actually reached a conclusion. Now I have an answer. So there's some sort of agentic loop here where it's deciding on its own when is it done thinking, and like when does it have an interim answer, but it needs to think more to get the final answer. So agents are like an area that now we're seeing actually a lot of real world adoption of. The big one is Claude Code, for example. Claude from Anthropic wrote out an AI agent that's really good at writing code, actually. So there's a lot of stuff here that's happening that's interesting. And then the other thing I want to speak about here is reasoning models. So that's like O3 from OpenAI, or DeepSeek has a reasoning model. Now Anthropic does too. And these are AI models that can, so to speak, think before they give you a final answer. And the bottom line is you're really doing more at compute time and getting higher quality answers, which means that these agents are now able to tackle more and more interesting tasks. So this is like a lot of stuff that's going on in the ecosystem. And had I been speaking about Holmes, I think 3 months ago, it would have been a very different talk. But I want to like take with all that technology that's out there now, I want to bring that a little bit into the cloud native world. And before I speak about Holmes, before I speak about any of that, speak about the motivation here and why like we created the project and why we've seen such rapid adoption of it. So within the cloud native world, then when we see people primarily looking at AI and building internal tooling or adopting external tooling for two main use cases. One is on call, so reducing MTTR, mean time to resolution, solving incidents faster. That matters because you reduce downtime. So that matters very often from a business perspective. And then the second area here within the cloud native world that we see a lot of people looking at this is from a platform engineering lens. And typically that looks like, okay, a DevOps team, it has a lot of knowledge and they support a lot of other devs in the organization who don't always have that knowledge. And those developers will often come to that DevOps team with a lot of questions. That takes time away from the DevOps team to work on their planned roadmap work and sprint work. It means the developers have to wait until they get an answer. So that's an area where we see a lot of people looking at AI agents and can you improve developer experience and like use AI to get developers to be more independent from DevOps when it comes to DevOps related tasks. So in this space, there's like a lot of stuff out there. Probably the most well-known one is CaseGPT. We take a little bit of a different engineering approach there than they do with Holmes GPT. I'll speak about that in a second. But there's a ton of commercial solutions out here as well. Maybe this is a good point to stop for a second. People have questions or comments. I don't know if anyone here has been looking at that. Rano, I know you've been looking at this a little bit directly as well, of course.
I got a question. Why do you think, because I agree, MCP is a thing. Why do you think it's now here? Right? Like what made it maybe, I don't want to call it the winner, but why is it winning compared to maybe anything else we had?
So there isn't really a good alternative to MCP. There's stuff like Composio, which is AGPL, but they didn't really have a standardized protocol for it. There hasn't really been an alternative to MCP, to be honest. So but let me start with the problem that MCP solves. Let me even go back a little bit before that. So like the first iteration of large language models were trained on data from the internet, and then they had no data about the external world, right? Like, you know what, maybe I can even, it might be worth sketching this out slightly. It's probably gonna pop me into something existing. Let me see. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. So like if you really think about this conceptually, then like we had the first generation of AI models. This was like a large language model. It was trained, and then like at runtime, at inference time, you got like some data coming in, right? And then you got some answer coming out. And the big downside of this in the first generation was that like you had a model that was trained like on data from 2021. You ask a question about 2023, it has no idea. It would go off and hallucinate, right? And it couldn't know anything. Even if it was trained in 2023 and you ask it a question like the day after it was trained about the news, it can't go off and answer based on that. So then what people started doing in like the next generation was really called RAG. So like here people say RAG or retrieval augmented generation. They essentially said like over here you had some question like what I don't know, what is the right field in a Kubernetes YAML to put in the image, right? It's maybe not the best example, but it'll illustrate the point very well, right? So someone to ask a question, that's the prompt for the agent, and then the agent, sorry, for the large language model, and then the large language model gives an answer. So with RAG, essentially what people started doing is you would say like, you would ask the same exact question, and then you would like attach to the end of that, and here is big dump of documentation from Kubernetes. And you would just shove into that prompt like a ton of information that you thought might be useful to answer the question. And that was RAG. And then the next iteration of that came around, and that was really tool calling or function calling. And the way that worked is you would say like, now you would do something that was actually a little bit smarter. You would say like, what is the right field in the Kubernetes YAML to put the image, right? or something like that. And now the AI would not go off and answer. The AI would, before answering, it would generate a bunch of API calls, and it would generate a call like, read the Kubernetes documentation, fetch this page on the internet. And then it would feed that data back in, right? So it's going off, it's doing those API calls, it's getting the data, it's speaking now to the real world, and then it's going off and giving you an answer. And then this is kind of where we were at before MCP. And this is actually where HolmesGPT started. And like from perspective of HolmesGPT, like we want to go off and we want to solve these problems for our open source users and for our commercial customers. And we want to like reduce that mean time to resolution. We want to help people improve developer experience. And like to do that, we get a question or we get an alert or an incident that comes in, and we have to be able to go off now and like speak to Datadog, speak to Prometheus, speak to Loki, speak to Grafana, speak to all these different data sources. And then like we implemented a lot of that in HolmesGPT, but the challenge becomes there are so many data sources over here that you can go and speak to. So to get the large language model with tool calling to go off and to speak to like Loki and Grafana and Tempo and Kubernetes and all these other things, we have to do a lot of work to like build all these different integrations. And then the problem that MCP solved, and that nothing else is really solved in a good manner before MCP, the problem that MCP solved was it decoupled the people who expose these systems from the people who are using them with an LLM. Meaning, before, like if I wanted to go off here and like to query data from Grafana, like imagine an alert comes in our DevOps use case, and like I say, why is this alert firing? And I give it some alert, right? Now our system, HolmesGPT, wants to go off and query Grafana. So like beforehand, we had to like build an integration with Grafana into HolmesGPT. And what MCP really does and does really well is it decouples these two things. So now Grafana can build a connector for Grafana, and like I don't know, Splunk can build a Splunk connector, right? And Elasticsearch can build an Elasticsearch connector. And there are all these standard things, and then they're just speaking on this standard protocol. So now, from like a HolmesGPT perspective, then we're just speaking to any tool with MCP. We don't even know that it's like, we don't even care that it's Grafana or Splunk or anything else. We're just speaking MCP, and we can use MCP to discover and to connect to like any data that we want to bring into the large language model. So if you think about it, like it's kind of like a browser, right? A browser supports HTTP, and then it can speak to any website that speaks HTTP, right? So that MCP is kind of like that for large language models. If you have like an AI agent that supports MCP, you can speak to any MCP data source. Rano, does that help answer the question?
It does. Thank you.
Would MCP,
Okay.
very, very well described, Nathan. I think would MCP then is also like, is it like a kind of a prompt, like a vector prompt, well-packaged vector prompt?
Not exactly. MCP does a few things. MCP exposes resources. So like if you're Grafana, you can expose a resource they call a dashboard. It exposes tool calls, so like the ability to say like find me the most relevant dashboard for X, Y, and Z. And then it does have a capability to expose prompts as well. So like Grafana could expose a bunch of prompts that they recommend. I've never seen anyone using that part of MCP though. The only part of MCP that people use out of everything I described is the tool calling. That's the part that
maybe.
all
It's
the
okay.
other
I mean,
parts.
I'll learn more, but I was just thinking about like described RAG. In RAG, we are just converting that into some very well-defined prompts, right? And it's like putting in a vector and then sending it to the large language model. So I wanted to see if that's kind of the philosophy that is used, but it's okay. I mean, you answered my question for now, but I'll learn more as we go along.
Right. In general, tool calling is a stronger primitive than RAG, than RAG. And the reason why is because with RAG, you're deciding what data to bring the large language model before you ever call it. So you're actually deciding what to feed into the large language model with something that is weaker than the large language model, specifically vector databases and like semantic similarity or what have you.
Right.
With tool calling, then you're using the full power of the large language model to actually say what data are you missing, and then what data should I go and fetch. But then how you fetch that, MCP is like the protocol layer. It's the transport layer. It's the HTTP of that, so to speak. It's actually on top of HTTP, but you get the gist.
Okay. No, I think I get it. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll learn more. Yeah, I think got some idea. Thanks.
Yeah. So you could think of tool calling as like JavaScript. but MCP is the way you're communicating. That JavaScript is communicating with things and pulling in the data.
Okay.
So, I mean, so jumping back over here, like really now though, we're at a place just in terms of the ecosystem that like if I look at MCP, there are like a ton of MCP connectors for everything, right? Like if I look at MCP servers, there are there's like a ton of MCP servers out there. There's one for SQLite, there's one for Redis, there's one for like GitHub, there's a million MCP for Grafana, for a whole bunch of like really for anything you can imagine now for AWS, right? And we're actually at a really interesting place now where it's really easy. Like if you have an alert that comes in and on call, like you're on call or the developer has a question, there's actually like all these rich data sources are already in a format for a large language model to consume. And then like large language models with all the stuff on reasoning models and all the other improvements are really at a place where they can do a pretty good job at that now if you connect them up properly. And then a lot of the questions now become like how do I get the most data into the large language model so that I can answer the right questions? How do I focus and like build a user experience that really makes sense for a specific domain? So, okay, what is Homes GPT? So we take in, I'll start over here. We take in alerts from PagerDuty, Apps Genie, Alert Manager, that's what I'll show you today, New Relic, any of these alerting systems, or we take in questions from developers. So like a developer can ask a question on Slack via Slackbot. Then we query all these observability sources. So we can look at logs from Loki, traces from Tempo, logs from CoreLogix. We can look at like your OpenShift environment and read from the Kubernetes API. Traditionally, we didn't do this with MCP. We did this with our own connectors. Very soon, we're going to be releasing here MCP support, so we can connect to any MCP source plus all of our own stuff. And then we can ingest runbooks and like documentation you have about your organization. And then given an alert that we were asked to investigate or a question from developers, Homes will go off, it'll query all that observability data. It can use your runbooks or any documentation you have, and then it can generate like a root cause, show you related graphs, related logs, and any other evidence that went off and it gathered. And then we're also looking now a lot at remediation. So like if we found a problem, we analyzed an alert, we found out what the problem is, we actually have some experimental capabilities here to go off and generate a pull request to fix that. So that's a lot. I'm sure there are some questions around this.
That's exciting. This is like you said, this is fast moving and a lot to keep track of, especially when it gets to the remediation part. Like you gotta really think about the outcome of making a change, especially automatically. I actually maybe a related question that I always ask people when it comes to remediation, how do you feel about the undo button?
So we have a very specific take on this, which is that we're a tool to augment humans, not to replace humans. Now that may change down the road, but like I'll show you an example of an automated remediation. This is just a repository with a bunch of automatic remediations that we're testing. So like here's an example where you ran out of storage on a persistent volume in Kubernetes. Most of the automatic remediations are around infrastructure as code. So those are the examples I'll show you. And it's just bumping up the storage. So it's generating a pull request. A human would look at this and right away be like, yeah, I'm running out of disk space. Like, okay, yeah, go bump up the storage from 1 GB to 2 GB. Like, of course, that's really easy to validate by looking at that. That's the correct thing to do, right? So I would go on, I would like click approve, and then this would be merged. So you could undo that the same way that you would undo any like pull request, but where this is more like an additional team member that you said like, oh, there's an issue with disk space running out. Go increase that. They went off and they increased, and you like approve their pull request. So we're thinking about really what people often call human in the loop and not 100% automated remediation. We do have like a little bit around completely automated and some experimental stuff there, but it tends only to be automated. Like there, we tend to use AI to generate rules for automatic remediation. A human reviews that, and then they're only applied live what was pre-approved. Yeah, Deep, you have your hand up.
I was kind of confused. It looks like I thought Homes GPT is a competing tool of Kate's GPT and targeted to basically tailor-made to Kubernetes. But given that you can hook to any data source or any type, it sounds like it's a general agent and it can work for anything.
Yeah, we don't do a good enough job conveying that. And on like our commercial website, we say Kubernetes, which we're about to remove and replace with cloud native. But we're not fundamentally Kubernetes specific.
Right. It does look like that, and you are able to hook to any data type, so then I can use in any context I want. Is there any to-do guide for? I mean, I'm a security guy, so I always thinking. I have this disparate set of systems, which is router applications, on-prem, cloud, and so on. And if I have security collection of security data or collection of security, let's say issues, and then use this agent to figure out a overall picture of the entire, let's say, data center. I mean,
So I will frame it in one sense about like where you'll see really good results.
mhm.
Is so let me start with what we're bad at today, okay? We don't look at statistics and correlations from a statistical perspective. So if you ask me about the whole data center, like what's going on, I can go off and I can look at every single thing in the data center and I can summarize. But like we're not going to look at like the trends and say this graph is going up. But where we're really good is if you give like a specific security incident and you say like, here's a security incident or a ticket that came in, or there like something got triggered, it triggered an alarm on one of our firewalls, go investigate that, then we could do a really good job giving you the root cause of that
Yeah,
and
that's
showing you.
yeah, precisely. Actually, so the intention of asking that question was precisely that. Uh, I mean, you already have all trained model already have information how to see what they want to see. Let's say I have OWASP top 10. So there are ways to figure out what's going on. And if I'm able to bring you, let's say, data of last 2 hours, what happened, and even though the data is bucketized into multiple places in multiple ways, then I'm assuming this tool is should be able to correlate a few stuff, no?
So but we work the fundamental opposite way. Like if you look at it, I have the other tooling out there, then you're bringing, this really requires a mindset shift. Because
Hmm.
if I have the other tooling out there, you're gathering the data and then you're feeding in with like retrieval augmented generation. And we actually say like, no, that's completely the opposite. Like, because then the AI will only be as good as what you knew to feed in. But if you know
That's
what to
right.
feed, what's the whole point of the AI? Like you know what you're feeding in. So we work in the fundamental opposite way. So you would feed in only like the idea of an incident or a problem or like a one-line description of the problem that you want to investigate. And then Holmes will go off and it will pull on its own all the related data sources. So you don't feed in like 2 hours worth of data. You would feed in like there was a security incident at 10 o'clock, whatever. You would feed in no other data, but you give it the connectors, and then it will go off on its own and it will decide what to query, and then it can start to do all these correlations. But you get better results. Actually, the less you feed in upfront, and the more you give it the freedom to go off and explore the problem and then decide what data to query.
I see. Okay. So that's the clear distinction. So if I say that, okay, go figure out if there is any case of DDoS and there are this, then I provide this connector where to go. Probably it will be able to figure out.
Yeah. So we did a really cool demo once on the security use case. We don't focus on this. Like, well, we're a startup, so we're like we have to be laser focused, unfortunately.
I
And
understand. Yeah.
to
You
pay
have
us
any
money for
cookbook link or something?
MTTR use cases. So we have to unfortunately be laser focused, but we did do once a really cool demo in the very early days around security. And we like gave it we gave it access to Confluence. And then we gave it a security incident where someone was like deleting flow logs from AWS. And for anyone who isn't familiar with that, essentially that means someone is covering their tracks and deleting network traffic. And then we put somewhere in Confluence, we put up something like a little bit of information about one of the employees and like a history of what was going on with different employees. And then we just said like there's been this alert triggered in Datadog that there's like flow logs being deleted, figure out why. Like, should I worry about that? And it went off, it looked at the flow logs, and then it saw which principal was doing that. And it saw like the principal was this certain ID, and then it checked up who is that principal. It saw it's a specific employee. Then it looked in Confluence to find information about that employee, and then it came back and said like, this employee was fired probably for like running a crypto miner and company equipment, according to this Confluence page, right? And now he's deleting network traffic. Like, you should look at this. So it was really cool to see it putting the parts together. Ronald, I think you had a question.
Yeah, unfortunately, not much of a question. Ricardo also just put in chat. Our meeting ends at 9, so I'll say officially, thank you, Natan. Sorry we didn't have more time. You're always welcome back. Please stay on if you'd like to stay on and keep the conversation going. But just officially, we need to just say the meeting's done. Thank you everyone for being here. But please continue.
I'll stay on as long as it's useful. I can stay on for at least another 10 minutes. So let me also show you how you connect tools. The way you connect tools, like I'll show you an example how you would hook up data for AWS, and like people have hooked up like data from telecommunication systems. So like it's really easy to add it on your own. So the way you do it is like if you want it to be able to go off, for example, and fetch AWS user audit logs, then you essentially give it a definition saying, like you have access to fetch audit logs. Here's the name, like fetches audit logs for a specific AWS CloudTrail user, right? And then you give it a command to run. So you give it a command to run AWS CloudTrail lookup events, and then you just give it like a template variable, like the username, for example. And what's really cool about this is it figures out how to fill in that template variable. So like it will figure out on its own, like based on the question you asked, like should I go off and like look at AWS RDS and look at your RDS database? Should I look at events? Should I look at Kubernetes stuff? Should I look at CloudTrail? Should I look at audit logs? Like based on whatever you're asking, it figures out what data it should be pulling. And then it figures out on its own, how do I call this API? Like what value am I putting in for username? And then it starts to chain these together. So like based on what I learned from the first API call, now there's a second API call. And then the third and so on. So let me just show you an example of this. Maybe it'll be helpful to show it. And I'm just going to show you here the command line. Hang on. Okay, yeah. So I'm just running here Holmes Investigate Alert Manager. And just as an example, I'm going to pull alerts from my alert manager, the Prometheus alerting stack, and we're going to start investigating those. So first is just loading up those tool sets. So for example, it has here access to like some security tools in AWS, RDS, some lots of stuff that's not Kubernetes. And okay, it's pulling off here. It got the first alert, QPod not ready. So there's a pod that isn't ready. This is a Kubernetes example. And it's analyzing the other, and then you can see here, soon it's going to show the result, but I don't want to go there just yet. Let me build this up a little bit. First, it like fetched a web page. So there's a run book, so it went off to the internet, and it read that page on the internet for the run book. Now it'll follow instructions in the run book, it's learned. And then it went off and it ran kubectl describe, right, on this pod. And then it looked at the logs. And then it looked at like the logs that this crashed, or it looked at the previous logs. And it'll keep on doing this and pulling as much information as it needs. And it could start on Kubernetes and like pivot to AWS or pivot to somewhere else. Or if the logs mention a database, it would look at the database. It can really pivot the investigation as it goes. That's what it means also when like people say an agent. It can keep on running these until it has a sufficient answer. And then, okay, we output a few sections like, okay, the other explanation, that's just like literally what the alert means, key findings. Okay, this pod was evicted due to memory pressure on the node, right? And okay, and then like next steps and how I could go off and fix this, right? And then one thing that DevOps teams always love is to know, is this an application issue, an infrastructure issue? Because developers will come to infrastructure teams all the time and DevOps teams say like, there's a problem with Kubernetes. And like, no, it's very often a problem with your application. So that providing DevOps teams this type of guidance can be really useful. And then generating some external links so you can go off and like dig into more details in other systems. So this is kind of the core for what it's doing and how it's working. And then it also on like what's open source and what's commercial. So like the core of this, like everything I'm showing you here is open source. And then we wrap this up in like a friendlier user interface and like in a Slack by and other formats to make it more accessible to developers. But like the core engine is open source. And we've seen, I don't know if I can name anyone, but we've seen some Fortune 500 companies also that have taken this and then built their own stuff on top of this and hooking up to their infrastructure. So there's some really cool things people are doing with it. Now that's been a lot, so I'll stop again for questions.
Natan, thank you. I love the explanation here. That should make it into the video as well, the recording for things, just so you know. I have to actually go, but I have another meeting. But thank you very much, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, pleasure.
Bye. All.
So, given that we're over time, then if people have questions, I'll address that. But I'm not going to go on. I have a little bit more that I probably would show, but I'm not going to show it as it comes up in the questions. So maybe I'll take questions. Then after that, I guess let's wrap it up.
I have one question here. So the dots which I'm not able to connect, that of course you have a question and then you have bunch of commands and then it goes there, it figure out log, and then it parses that and finds some issue, and then whatever it points to, it goes there and so on. But all of these intelligence coming from some LLM model, is it some proprietary or just hooking up to a standard like ChatGPT or something?
We're just hooking up the standard model. So typically, like our customers, our enterprise customers are running like with AWS already, and then they'll take a model of their own on AWS Bedrock, or they take a model like from Azure AI. So the ability to do it actually on top of any off-the-shelf model ends up being a really important like strategic advantage, because then also a new model like O3 comes out and you can just like right away go on top of that. And we've seen that the type of improvements that we get from new models coming out is actually at a much greater pace than the type of improvements we could get from training or from fine-tuning models.
I see. Thank you.
Other questions? So I say let's wrap it up then. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me. And if anyone has questions, feel free to message me afterwards as well. And Deep, especially, thank you for the participation, and feel free to ping me afterwards as well if you want advice or tips on how to add your own data sources here. Because there's some
And how to best reach you? Actually, I think I intend to. So how to reach you best?
LinkedIn. Send me a connection request, or I think when I joined, I actually sent I might have already sent you one even when you introduced yourself, and then just send me a message on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
It can take me a day or two to reply sometimes, just if I'm tied down with other things, but I will always get back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was lovely.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
All the best. Yeah.
It's something. Thanks, everyone.
My pleasure.